I'm very proud to introduce Mworia. Probably just for your information, I sit with him in the board of LEWA. And we are trying to put in skills of the best conservation methodologies and approaches. And he's a very valued member of the team. When he was made CEO of Centum, at first I was apprehensive. Okay? But remember, even me was CEO at the age of 21. I was the director of student welfare at the University of Nairobi at the age of 31 in 1997. And the university took a risk on me to take care of 10,000 boarding students. So Kirubi, the principal shareholder of Centum, took a risk on Mworia. And that risk has turned out well. And those who took a risk on me, I never disappointed them. And that is the inspiration young people should take from this forum, and why we invited Mworia is once you take a risk on young people and you impart in them the right skills and the right attitudes, then you don't have to worry much later. You will just be looking back and say, progress, progress, progress. So young people, Wanafunzi team, you have the greatest inspiration in James Mworia. He's extract-born. He has done law. He has done accounting. So he has a combination of skills that are a bit rare. It's very rare to find an accountant who is also a lawyer, because lawyers hate maths. And I'm sure the lawyers in this forum will be looking at me and say, what are you saying? But that is true. So James Mworia has that combination of skills. But one thing that I've learned from him is his instinct in identifying business investment opportunities. The reason why he has grown that wealth of Centum incredibly is because then he's able to spot business opportunities. Then the other thing also is his ability to build a strong team. Some of the people he has built, and he has told me a lot about the team, is people who are even much brighter than him. But to have that confidence as a CEO and say, come on board, we want, this is the direction, I will provide leadership, but do the number crunching and we take the risk. 2 years ago, I think the board of Centum gave them a bonus, gave staff a bonus of 1 billion shillings, and the markets were like, woo, what are you talking about? If you create value, why not the benefits of that value? So James is a very good example of somebody who has generated value, and he is not, and I guarantee you, he is not one of the primitive accumulators of wealth in Kenya. He is genuine and he means well for Kenya. So I'm very proud, Jim, Fred, GIDI, to introduce James Mworia, our guest speaker today. James, Karibu.
Thank you very much, Julius, for that very wonderful introduction. It's a huge honor. When we started, Julius mentioned that we want to impart knowledge to young people, and I reminded him that I'm one of those young people, because when Julius was teaching in Strathmore in 1991, I was doing my KCPE exam. So Julius, I've really enjoyed your presentation. And Julius has been one of my mentors, because when he was leading SWA, what used to call it SWA, Student Welfare Association, I found him there when I joined the University of Nairobi in 1997 as a student, when I was looking for a hall of residence. Although we did not know each other, we've continued to work together in various capacities in life. And really somebody I look up to. I also want to thank Jim McPhee, because when I reported as a student at Strathmore in 1996, CPA Section 1, Jim McPhee was a no-nonsense financial accounting lecturer. It was my thing. And if you're not getting it, he'd hit you on the head with a piece of chalk. And he was a wonderful inspiration in terms of his diligence. And later on, we even served on the board of Centum for many years. And a lot of the decisions we took were together with Jim McPhee. So it just shows you the power of relationships, even as you are a student today. Some of the people who are your lecturers, you might end up working together in the future. And it's been wonderful to know Jim and to know Julius. I also want to thank Dr. Gola and GIDI for the thing you're doing with Wanafunzi and for inviting me today. I actually did not know that Wanafunzi is working with NABO, so I'm really glad that NABO is involved in this wonderful initiative. And that's really the power of what we do. You know, it's really empowering people and not managing and allowing them to other people. So really, it's a big honor and a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to preside over this graduation, and I also congratulate all the winners, and indeed everyone who has participated in this event. I did ask, because I didn't want to bore you with long speeches, I asked to be given some questions, so that then I could address my remarks towards certain questions. And so the first question I was asked is, what has been my personal financial management and entrepreneurial journey, and what I've learned from it. So I began business a long time ago. You know, when I was maybe 10 or 11, I used to work. I started working at my late dad's law firm, then worked at my mom's restaurant. And so when other kids would stay at home over the holidays, I would go and be the cashier at the restaurant. And then have to balance the books, serve customers. And in fact, when I reported at Strathmore, the December before, the entire month I'd been at the restaurant working when the family had gone for holiday, so that I could make fees to come to Strathmore in 1996 for section 1. And so out of the profit that I had made, my reward was to be able to attend Strathmore. And so I've been on that business journey, and it was interesting when I joined, and I'd not studied accounting before at all in high school. My first exposure to accounting was in Strathmore. And section 1 was really wonderful to now understand accounts, to understand how businesses make money, to understand economics, because now I could read the entire newspaper and understand it, because before I would skip the business sections, the economic sections, I didn't understand anything, and I could now start understanding and understand law. So for me, that was, I think Strathmore really opened my eyes to the world, because you're sort of half blind if you can't understand business. I then went on, after I finished CPA section 6 in 98, to then worked briefly at Ernst & Young, and then started offering financial services to small businesses. Eventually worked sort of as a part owner and as sort of in a petrol station, where you really have to make money, and make money by serving customers and then account for it, because what we were taught in Strathmore was how to account for the money that has been made. But then in the real world, you have to learn how to make the money so that you have something to account for. If you have no sales, you can't even pass the first double entry of the P&L, where you debit cash and credit sales account and credit either. So that for me was my introduction. Eventually, just as Julius was saying, when I graduated with a degree in law, and there was a wonderful lecturer we had in section 1 called Nathan, who advised, because my initial choice was law, and he advised me to stick with it, even though I'd picked up accounting because of the breadth of understanding. I secured an internship at a small at an organization then, which is today's Centum. It was called ICDCI. Just like many of you will be securing that internship. And when I came in, what I tried to understand is how that particular business creates value, and then how I connect my skills and the work I'm doing to the purpose of the organization. Because I realized when I was in business that the only way you make money is if you create value for your customer. And you need to connect what it is you're doing to what, because my client was a company that had employed me. And so I treated it as a service provider-client relationship, as opposed to an employer-employee relationship. And my first job was in the filing room as a filing clerk. And I really enjoyed it because it was a learning opportunity to understand how the business operates. And so I really enjoyed reading the files and understanding the investment process and the decision-making processes. And that, I think, helped me in that learning journey so that I could plug better with the purpose of the organization. And my initial salary was 5,000 shillings, but I said to myself, look, the value I can offer is far greater than the 5,000 shillings. But the only way I'll move from these 5,000 shillings to a higher earning power is if I'm able to enhance the value add to the organization so that I'm so valuable to the organization that they are prepared to pay me more. And in the many years I've worked, I've never asked for a pay rise. Actually, it's either my boss or the board that has recommended that they give me a bit more money. And so I think the first lesson I've learned is, because today as students, you have human capital. And that's what the school is teaching you. So for you to move from earning, from human capital to enhancing your earning, you need to connect it by how do you enhance your skill? And then how do you work on your mindset? Because it's not about the money, it's about the passion you bring to what you do. And the earning is a byproduct. So if you put the earnings first, I see a lot of people coming and negotiating their salaries first. Let your work speak for yourself. Let your P&L speak for itself. And I remember after like my second year, I did a P&L and said, what real tangible value have I added to this organization? Now to do so, you need to then think about how do you continue to improve your skills. And that's why I went back to engage in the CFA program, because I realized that I'm in an investment organization and my skill set was limited. And that for me to create even greater value and impact to the organization, I needed to work on my skills. So the earning then is a byproduct of those things, a byproduct of you enhancing your skills, of the passion that you bring it, but ultimately asking yourself at the end of the day, did I add value? No one wants to lose a good partner. So typically, business people are selfish. If you're adding value, they want.
I think we've lost James.
Yeah, it seems we've lost him. Maybe we give him a little bit, like 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Gola, you can take over as we wait for his link to come back.
So I'm thinking that there are some questions which have been asked there of somebody has asked about the issue of those in diaspora. How can you invest money back home in Kenya? I think that's one question which is noted. That I think has come from Sharon. I think James is coming up. Let me let him continue.
Yeah, he's
James.
back.
Yeah. So I know we're on the subject of investing. You see, you cannot invest that what you don't have. So I was just going to make the point that then from your earnings, then you need to save. Because if you don't save, there's no way you can create capital. And that was the second question. How important do you consider savings? So from the earnings, it is critical you save. I remember I kept a spreadsheet from the first day I started earning. And that spreadsheet had several columns. Column number 1 was the month. Column number 2 was my net salary. Column number 3 is how much I'd saved that month. Column number 4 was the net value of my investment portfolio. If you don't save, there's no way you can make that transition from earnings to capital, because you need to build wealth by setting aside a small sum of money every month. No matter how, even when I was earning 5,000 net, I would save something. And then now, once you save, then how do you invest that money? And one of the questions is, given the current economic conditions, are there any investment opportunities? You know, the investment opportunity that will give you the highest return is an investment in yourself. So when you save and you have some capital, you can then build capacity in yourself so that you can enhance your earning power. Because when you move from earning 5,000 to 50,000 to 100,000 to 200,000 to 1 million, you have more to save. And so the investment in yourself as an investment opportunity will always be available regardless of the economic circumstances that are prevailing. But even when you go and invest in the financial markets, if you take a risk-free investment, like investment in government bonds, for example, and I was working it out, if you just save 5,000 every month at a 12% rate of return, in 10 years, your portfolio will be worth over 1 million shillings. So you don't have to say that for you to become a millionaire, you have to set aside a lot of money. Is to set it aside and invest it conservatively. And that is what will give you the capital when you now have a business idea to then say, I've built wealth to be able to move from being to become an employer. So that's sort of the transition, moving from human capital to earning power, to then saving, to then building wealth, to then becoming an owner of capital and an owner of business. If you're investing 10,000 shillings every month for 10 years, compounding it at 12%, it's 2 million shillings. If you make it 30,000, it's close to 20,000, it's close to 5 million shillings. 30,000 is 7 million shillings. So many of us are not millionaires out of choice because you have access to this 5,000 shillings. But the temptation to spend it in things that will not live beyond that particular moment is great. But if you think that your earnings are an outlet of your creative process and you respect your effort, then you'll see the imperative of saving and having that discipline so that when you need the capital, you have it. And so that for me was my journey. And so after about 2 or 3 years, I was looking at my spreadsheet this morning. I had a capital of about 5 million. By year 4, it was about 10 million shillings because then the stock market was doing well. And that's sort of how you build your wealth. So you're building it in multiple ways. You're working on your skills and your capability to enhance your earning power. You're maintaining your discipline to save. And that money is sort of multiplying and then giving you now enabling you as you build experience to then move on to be either a shareholder of the business you're in or an owner of capital. The other question that was asked is, how do you accomplish, the objective of many people is to make money. And once you've made money, what keeps you motivated? The point I wanted to make is that, God has equipped us with a talent and an ability. And in the period you have, I think it's our responsibility to be an outlet of God's creative process. And so in pursuing that passion and in pursuing the talent, the primary motivation is not to make money. The primary motivation is to make a difference. And money is a byproduct of that. You'll have added value to your customers, you've added value to your shareholders, ultimately you'll make money. And work is like a mirage. The more you do, the more there is to be done. And the greater the calling and the greater the need for your skills. So to that question, if your primary desire is to make money, then you are unlikely to be successful. Because the challenge today we face as employers is, we have a lot of skilled people coming out of our universities. They have the book knowledge, but the passion and the energy and the motivation, sometimes it's not there. And that's what makes a difference. It's that energy, it's that positive mindset that you bring to your work every day to say, I'm here to make a difference. No matter what challenge I face. Now, you cannot get that level of motivation if you're motivated by the income. You have to be motivated by the desire to do the job. And in doing so, add value. And in doing so, you will get some income. If you then make a passive income, so be it. Then there are a lot of needs. As Julius was saying, we're in a society that with incredible degree of needs. And there's really no end to the needs that one can fulfill when you've built a certain capital base. The fourth question that was asked is that young people in starting their own businesses have a lot of challenges in securing capital. And I was asked whether I agree with that question. And my view is that is one of the problems that many young people face. But I don't think it's the most fundamental problem. the most fundamental problem in my view, not just for young people, but for business people generally, is the inability to connect what it is they want to do with a real customer need. And the realization that sustainable business exists where you are solving a need that exists in society. That's number one. Number two, that need is broad enough that you can build a scalable business out of it. Number three, you have a business model that enables you to solve a business need in a profitable manner. Number four, you can make cash flow out of that need. Your customers are prepared to pay you in advance. Number five, you have a competitive advantage so that the next person does not come and copy what it is that you're doing. Now, if you can do that, you won't have a problem with capital. Because the easiest capital to get is the capital from your customer, where your customers are prepared to pay you in advance. And if we can focus more on the customer, there are many businesses that exist through raising capital from their owners. So for example, when I was appointed CEO of Centum, there was 10 million shillings of cash in the bank and an overdraft of 180 million shillings. That's what I started off with in December of 2008. In that period, we've not raised any new capital from our owners. And the money we borrowed, we paid it in full last year, this year actually, about 18 billion. Today we have a balance sheet of about 60 billion shillings. That growth has not come by us living off the value created by our owners, but you creating your own value. So whereas, yes, capital is a problem. And I was in a forum with Joshua Igara last Friday and Mukisa Kitu, and we were discussing this point. And Joshua made the point that when they were running this show, The Den, many of the business proposals that they got were not focused on addressing a real customer need. So they were not real businesses. And I think the advantage young people have is that today, majority of the consumers are young. 61% of Kenya's population is below 24 years of age. You have an ability to relate more with the customer and to innovate around the customer needs and to come up with new ideas, that because the needs are so different today than they were before, to come up with new ideas, whether in the digital marketplace, and connect with those needs, and then think about, how do I scale my business? How do I create a competitive advantage rather than copying what your neighbor has done? I think the other question that was asked is, what skill do I wish I had today? Had I known what I know today, what skill would I wish I had when I was age 20 or 21 or 22? I think for me, the most critical skill I wish I had is the ability to sales. Because there's no need building what you cannot sell. And sort of understanding what the customer really wants. A lot of the times we spent learning the processes in between, the business model, assuming the customer exists. How do I record my sale? And I always make fun with Jim McPhee. The topic that I really struggled with was deferred tax. So you're spending time, yes, to deferred tax, but for you to end up with tax to pay, you must have created value. And that's one, especially now in the digital marketplace that you're in, understanding, because the world has totally changed. Before it was brick and mortar, customers coming to your shop. Now, customers are engaging on the digital marketplace, and there's a lot of ideas around marketing and sales and the rest. And that's really something I wish I knew, and if I was asked, I would say should be compulsory teaching for any program, because any program we do, we're equipping people with skills to go to the marketplace and sell, whether you're employed or employed. Treat your employer as your client, as your really offer value that far exceeds what you're being paid for, so that tomorrow you can earn a lot more. So I thought I would share those ideas with you around the questions. I really wish you all the best. I want to congratulate the winners. I want to thank Fred and Jim and GIDI for this wonderful initiative around Wanafunzi investments. I want to encourage all of you to take this opportunity that you've been given by Jubilee seriously. Even if you are selling insurance, it's what will equip you with a skill in future to sell something different. So embrace the opportunity you have, because that's what you have today. Embrace it, learn as much as you can, build your capacity, invest in your capacity so that you can enhance your earning power, Ask yourself every day, what value did I add? And if you're not adding value, reflect back, and the earnings will follow. The earnings will follow value add, as sure as day. And when they do, make a point of saving. If you can, create the spreadsheet, just like I did, and then start building your capital and track the capital. And building wealth is not a sprint. It takes time. And you may be 20 and you think 10 years is a long time. I'm embarrassed sometimes to say I've known Jim McPhee for 25 years. I only thought old people say that, but 25 years have gone, you know, and so 10 years a short time, 15 years a short time. And that's what it takes to build sustainable wealth over a period of time and to build your capacity so that ultimately you are an owner of capital and you have the knowledge to keep that capital in place. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.